Our first training cycle of the 2022 season is about to start on August 23rd. For more information and to join us, head to trainingthinktank.com.
Recording.
So I wanted to do a special podcast today. We got Mike McP,
Hey.
known to the rest of the world as Mike McG.
Yeah.
Tell him what the P stands for.
Power.
No.
Presidential.
You remember years ago at the hotel room, we were like sharing it in Cookville one year. You just looked over and you go, I'm changing my name.
To McPlatinum Rick.
McPlatinum Rick.
Why?
It's a step up from McGoldrick.
Oh,
He's going
I see.
platinum.
Did you know that was that one?
No, I just did
You
that.
just guess. What if it was like the
Yeah, it's like,
Your joke was terrible. I got a legit question for you.
yeah.
Why do you hate coffee?
I don't hate coffee.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't.
You
Why do
always
you say he hates coffee?
so like you actually didn't do it this morning. I was trying to get you to say something about my coffee, so I was like swirling it around your face.
Yeah.
And you're like, "Why are you drinking so much caffeine, Brandon?"
Oh my God, I don't sound like that. First off, I don't sound like that too. I don't care that you drink coffee. I just try to explain sometimes why I don't drink excessive amounts.
Tell me about it.
Where do I begin?
I think this comes to like the root of who you are. Why do you not like caffeine?
Well, let's go way back when it began. I love coffee. I just can't drink like 3-4 cups a day. I especially can't drink it after noon. If I
You're
drink
super sensitive to the caffeine.
Yeah.
But there's people who are and people who aren't.
Yeah.
And you're one of those people.
I'm one of those that is very sensitive to it. And I mean, I know people that can drink like a cup of coffee and go to bed.
Me.
Like,
That's me.
Like
That's
my
my
father-in-law is like, they'll come stay with us and it's like 8 at night and he's like, can I make some coffee? I'm like, sure. And he's like, it like puts him, you know.
I know, it's crazy.
Yeah. But like, if I even have like a decaf, it sounds ridiculous. Like there's still some traces in it. Like I can
Right.
feel it. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, my sister is just like that where she can fall asleep right after coffee. So they have like one of these special, it's one of the super automatic coffee machines. Basically you put the beans in, it grinds it for you and you can press like cappuccino or latte or whatever. She'll do that with 4 shots of espresso. So like the normal latte plus 4 shots. And so the other day we were in our meeting and Adam and I were talking about, well, how much caffeine is in like a shot of espresso?
Yeah.
And I looked up Starbucks, which is obviously going to be more.
Yeah.
But there are, it was something like 8 to 10 milligrams per ounce in their regular coffee.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so she does a 20 ounce plus 4 shots when she goes there.
That's a lot of caffeine.
70 grams per shot plus the 20 ounces of coffee, which is like
But I feel
300.
like caffeine or coffee specifically, I guess, coffee specifically is kind of almost like edibles, where it's like you don't really know the amount of the drug that you're getting.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you look it up, like
Start
Starbucks.
low.
What is
Yeah.
that study? Someone went and measured the caffeine and
Yeah. It was super inconsistent every time they
That
went
is
in,
true.
the
But that's just
caffeine
how,
content.
like, if it's too hot, right? Like it could burn it off maybe, or like the way that the beans are roasted changes the way that the caffeine content is.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, I've heard that like medium roast and mild roast, like they have different amounts of caffeine. So like I don't know how consistent it is.
yeah, we're just all talking out of our butts right now, and someone's going to comment and be
Brandon,
like, no.
how much caffeine are you on?
we didn't claim we knew anything, so I don't care.
No, I know.
How much? Do you,
I usually have 2 cups a day. So when I say cup, that's not fair because a cup would be 8 ounces.
Pots,
So
2 pots a day.
yeah, 2 very large
fiend.
cups. This is my second one. So I had 12 ounces at home, and then this is a 16 ounce. So that will be whatever 12 plus 16 is, 28 ounces today.
Oh man, I had a shot of espresso this morning.
Right. So you had 70 to 90 milligrams.
and that's all you're going to have.
Yeah,
See,
I'm good. I'm like,
I got pretty bad for a while.
Yeah.
I was having 2 rains a day.
yeah.
That's 600 milligrams.
One
Is that
thing
really?
I've
I was trying to
noticed,
figure out what you meant.
I don't feel like my tolerance ever changed. Like the more I drink, it just makes me feel worse. Meaning like if I drink it consistently day after day after day, I'm not able to like drink more and it like keep me the same. It like, you know, like my tolerance stays pretty much the same.
Yeah. No, I think mine does too. But I also don't like, I would not drink it after probably 1 or 2 p.m. I always try to cut it off before noon.
Yeah.
But like if I'm like, I have a lot of work to do, then I would drink one.
Yeah.
But it also doesn't affect me the same way. So that's why I always give you a hard time.
Yeah. I don't hate coffee. I love it. I love the process of waking up. I love how it smells and like, you know, making a cup in the morning. We have like a mocha pot. Those taste really good.
Yeah,
They're kind of like a blend between like an actual coffee and like a shot, like espresso. We also have like an espresso maker, which those things are great.
Those
They're
are
just
awesome.
expensive.
Yeah.
So like I try not to use one like every day. But for me, it's more like I don't like the feeling of relying on that to wake up every day and like, or to be creative, you know, like it's gotten to points before where I've really relied on caffeine to only be creative. And like that to me is like a means to an end. So
Yeah.
I'll like taper off of it a lot and like force myself to like write my programs and do creative work without it, just so I can like feel confident again that I don't need a stimulant to think
I hate
constructively.
that feeling.
Yeah.
Like, cause it's like, I don't get anything from the caffeine now. All I'm really doing is staving away a headache that if I didn't have my caffeine, I'd get.
Yeah.
And it's just a mental thing. Like I need this. I don't feel it. I'm never like, oh, now I'm charged.
It's like a drug though. That's kind of funny. Like you've read Michael Pollan's book on caffeine, and he like basically like to summarize it at the end, he's like, I don't know what the big deal is. He's like, I tried to quit drinking it, but whatever. I'm just going to drink my cup of coffee. And it's like, maybe it is harmless. And like having a little bit a day is like the most harmless addiction you can have. Cause it really is an addiction. Like you're waking up every day and it's like, that's the first thing I have to do. Especially when like people travel. They're like, I'll drive 30 minutes to go get my Starbucks.
Right.
Just cause like that taste.
Yeah.
You know? So I don't know. Like I'm not like, I don't like judge people for that, but I try to avoid that because you know, it just...
No, I respect that. And I was just giving you a hard time, but I do think it's like any other addiction, right? Like we find something that we want to like, oh, I'm not going to get addicted to that, but then we're always addicted to other things. And it's just trying to always find that balance of making sure that nothing is our master. But it's hard. It's hard for that to be the case.
Bullshit. Coffee's our master. Cheers to that.
Yeah. You find out what your God is after 3 days without using it.
Cheers.
So the other thing too, I mean, like, like addictions, whatever, like you could label that as anything. Like I'm addicted to doing breath work in the morning, and like Brandy thinks I'm a psycho because I'll be like, we got to pull over right now. We got up in the car early, like going on a trip.
I
I'm like,
actually
I have to do my
wish
breath
that
work now.
I had the video that Travis posted this weekend of you. Maybe we can pull that up and like,
this is my beginner
clip on.
It's my beginner stages of Qigong.
Mike is on this dock on the lake doing some, I don't know,
playing with water,
meditation work.
Is it Chi or Kai?
Qigong.
Kai? Ki?
It's spelled QIGONG.
I didn't know that.
That's about
I've been saying
all I know about
years.
Qigong, but I just started doing some morning movement with it.
Most people don't know this about you, but I feel like you've got a little hippie soul.
Yeah.
You want to talk to us about that?
No.
What's your favorite scent?
No.
You
My
got the
favorite scent?
candles and like
frankincense.
Mike keeps it real though. He doesn't go like too crazy with the hippie though.
No. Mike, if I had one word for Mike, and maybe this will be one of the final questions I ask you today, is what's your word for yourself? Or actually, I got a better one. I'm going to save it. But my word for you would be balanced. And I mean that in a very respectful way.
Thanks, dude. Thanks.
You're always very thoughtful, where I'm not as thoughtful about being balanced.
I mean, I'm out on the dock Saturday morning doing that, and I have the peanut gallery.
Oh, could you hear them? I didn't turn the volume on. I didn't know.
And I was like, I don't give a shit. This feels good right now. Like to me, that was balance.
And it's so
you
relaxing.
got your routines and you stick to them. Like you brought your didgeridoo to the games.
Yeah.
Tell them about that.
Yeah. You should explain that.
What part of it? The didgeridoo, or
I don't know what it sounds
why I was
like.
neurotic and traveled with us?
Yeah.
You've heard that, you guys out there in podcast world.
I like it because I've talked about this in another podcast. It's breath work that's fun to me. It's like learning to play an instrument, but also doing breath work at the same time. Because everyone's like, I want to do breath work in the mornings. And it's like, you have this routine and this structure. And like, that gets so boring to me over time, where I'm like doing reps and sets of breath work. Like you're turning something in that's like, you're turning something that was meant to be like creative and fun into like training. And I just like got bored with that. And like learning to play the didgeridoo to me was a fun way to kind of like get some artistic creation early in the morning and play and make sounds, but also...
Can you explain what that is? Because I don't think...
The didgeridoo? It's basically... So it's an Aboriginal instrument. You go to Australia, they play them everywhere. Right. They play them on the streets. And it's not just Australia. Like it's a worldwide wind instrument, but it's basically, I think it's eucalyptus root. Maybe not root, but it's like hollowed out, and it's basically just like a long wooden tube.
Right.
One end of it you just blow, kind of like how, did you ever play any brass instruments or anything growing up? Like a tuba, you have a large mouthpiece, and the sound is your lips vibrating. So this thing basically resonates sound with your lips vibrating
like
on
a
one
fart.
end of it. Yeah. But the challenge and the breath work part of it is learning how to continue to, it's called a drone, where you like, and you hold that, and like that's the sound that's being created through the tube, but you can like change your pitch with it, like tightening your lips and whatnot.
Kind of like a fart.
And like the first kind of tool you learn,
just keep doing
kind of like year farts that carry a really long drone.
Hey, it takes years of practice.
Or just like really wet. That'd be like you spitting in it.
Sure. Sure.
So, Perrin told me a story that she was bringing up something else for you, and it spilled all over her car, like a bunch of wax or something like that.
The end of it has like wax or beeswax on it, so
Mm-hmm.
you can like shape your mouthpiece. It's basically a mouthpiece that's like, putty.
And then what? So it was just sitting in the hot car.
It got really hot, and all the wax kind of melted off all over her car. Yeah.
Like, sorry, Perrin.
I was like, she was like, yeah, we'll bring some bags home for you. And I like come down with this like huge wooden tube, and she's like, what is this? It's like, it's my dig. And she's like, you are so weird.
You either didgeridoo, you didgeridoo don't.
So you're talking about breath work. What got you into that? And let's tie this into some training concepts too, because I think this is interesting.
I mean, like I was saying, like I was doing morning breath work, like Wim Hof cycles, and I like a morning routine. Everyone's like, "What's your morning routine? Like, what makes you successful?" I'm like, I don't like to claim success. I'm successful. Yeah. I like to use tools in the morning that kind of help set the tone for the day, that help me feel normal and balanced, and like I just gives me good energy in the morning. And when I was doing a lot of different breath practices, I just got kind of bored with them, and they didn't create the same sensation or like a new stimulus in the morning. So I just changed things up just because I like to learn things. And that was one of the things that, was like a part of my morning routine. But also too, like I like to learn instruments. Like I play the harmonica, and like I just like, it was just fun to me, like as a new challenge. Like going back to what I was saying, like one of like the basic tools you learn when you're playing a didgeridoo is like learning how to circular breathe. It's kind of like misleading because you're not really, there's no way to actually like exhale and inhale at the same time. But what you're doing is you're drawing air in through your nose, and then you're using your cheeks to continuously press air out so that the sound never stops.
Right.
And like say it so bad.
That's how Chris farts.
It's just continuous.
Yeah.
He's breathing in as it's coming out.
There was a guy at church camp many moons ago. He was the counselor, and
Benny Moon.
Yeah, many moons. He did
Benny
have
Moon.
He would suck a
Benny
he would
moons
suck
ago.
a fart in.
Yeah.
I don't believe
You've never seen it?
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, anyways, it's like, it just helps relax me in the morning. Cause I mean, you get older, you get more responsibilities, and you wake up and you have a million things coming in, like traffic into your head. So it was just a way for me to kind of like, this is the first thing I do, and all my focus goes into this. And now I just feel a little more calm and ready to take on all those incoming thoughts.
Have you done it more to calm yourself, to like before the storm in the morning, so to speak, or is it more for training purposes? Like I want to be able to have a better respiratory system.
I mean, well, yeah, partly that too. I mean, there's a lot of research on it. Like it helps people with sleep apnea. But I think it's like, I don't think it's the specific tool that helps with that. I think it's just the fact that you're doing consistent breath work. Like you're shutting off from all electronics and you're just focusing on your breath. And it's challenging, right? Like you take big breaths of air in, you're doing some retention work, you're doing long tempo pause breathing where you're basically doing like a 60-second exhale without breathing in at all. So like you do a lot of that. You do a lot of variations with it, So to me, it was like all these different breathing tools kind of wrapped into something fun and creative. Yeah. I think really too, the part that I enjoy about it in the morning is like, it's so natural as we get older and have more things to do with work and coaching and clients that you just naturally start waking up and going right into that. And like, don't get me wrong, like I love what we do, but it's work, and like you got to have some fun and play in your day. And I think starting off with something that you enjoy, that's like really fun, sets the tone for a much better day for me. Yeah. I've just found that out.
Are you doing that in your beautiful new grassed backyard?
Oh yeah. My Zoysia.
Yeah, your Zoysia. It looks so nice.
Thank you.
I remember, for those that have never seen pictures of Mike's backyard, when you just moved in, it was like a forest back there.
Yeah.
And this would be another great thing to have pictures of right now.
Before and afters.
Yeah, because I think it was me and John. We came over there. You're like, hey, can you help cut some stuff down? And I was like, oh my God, this is like, there's so much stuff.
It was like a 30-year-old home that was just completely overgrown, weeds, trees.
But now it's like a beautiful grass backyard. Everything's trimmed up. Like, you've done a good job.
It's fun going out there. Yeah. I mean, got a slack line and I hung some rings and like, it's just like a playground.
You know that you're getting old when like your favorite thing to do is to go home and mow the grass.
Barefoot too.
It's so nice.
People are like, you're going to cut your feet off. I'm like, it's worth it.
I'm gonna cut. That sounds like my mom when I was like 10 years old.
I'm not going to cut my feet off.
My foot has to go under the mower.
Yeah.
Your electric mower.
Yeah.
It has plastic blades on it.
It's a toy. It actually doesn't even cut the grass.
It's Liam's.
It just combs lines. I don't want to harm my grass.
That would
it's
look
a living
nice,
creature.
Though. I want to go back because this podcast is supposed to be about you, and I've just been
Why is it about me?
Questions. I want to go back to the genesis story of you with training Think Tank, but I think we have to go farther back than that. I want to hear the story about how you got into CrossFit in the first place, because I think another thing people don't know is you were a hockey maniac. You still are. You played in a couple leagues, although probably not since Liam's was born.
Before Liam was born, I knew that he was going to be born soon. So I was like, I started playing in adult leagues here again.
Yeah.
And I was in 2 leagues. So I was playing like,
going out as much as I can.
I was getting it all out of my system. I was playing like 3 or 4 games a night, and like the games are super late. And as soon as he was born, I just stopped. Yeah. They were like, "You want to play anymore?" I was like, "I'm done. I'm done. I'm good."
I know your pain, man.
Yeah.
I got down to like a 1.8 handicap in golf, which is pretty good, close to scratch. And then it went up to like a 10.5 after Kinsley was born.
Yeah.
So
not that I quit playing just because we had a child was born, but we started doing team and stuff too. I got back in training, but like I definitely couldn't do both, because those games, man, adult leagues, like all the times for the games are built around basically the youth schedule. So like it'd be like, "Hey Mike, this game this Wednesday is at 10:30 at night at a rink 35 minutes away." I'm like, I'm good.
No, that's so late.
Can't do that.
We played Catan this weekend, and I didn't go to bed until like 11. I was like, I'm never doing that again.
Chris loves Catan.
Yeah, that's his favorite.
He's never
game.
played it, but he loves it.
I've never played it.
You like it. So anyhow, going back to how'd you get into CrossFit?
No, fuck all that. We already have an episode with that. Why don't you ask him about this business that he used to have called Mobility Kits?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Go Google the Michael McGoldrick episode if you want to hear all that crap.
Oh yeah. So Mobility Kits was kind of like a side hustle that I started like over a decade ago. I got really big into like movement, and coming from like an engineering background, I just like to create things. And I was like, "Well, this is an idea I have that no one's really made yet." And I'm traveling as an athlete. I've got this collection of tools that I use to like take care of my body, like the basic stuff, like voodoo floss, peanuts, hardball, and like roller stick, whatever. And I was like, we need something cool that we could like put it into a container and collect it. So it's like really compact and easy to travel with. And I looked everywhere, and like no one had one of those. And it actually like, I just started like folding it that way and putting it in my gym bag. And Bledsoe back in the day was like, "That's a really cool idea. Like you should try and make one." So I looked around, I couldn't find anyone that had made something like that. So I was like, all right, there's an idea. Like, let's just see what we can build and like find tools to do this. So it was kind of out of necessity as an athlete coming up with the idea, and it just progressed over the years, right?
Can you
like,
re-say all that, but in like a Shark Tank pitch? Hi, Sharks. I'm Mike, and I'm here to offer you 5%.
I don't watch Shark Tank. So
You never watched? Oh,
yeah.
God. Never mind.
Yeah, sorry. I'm Mike. I'm Mike. I'm Shark Tank.
So basically, you had put all those tools into a foam roller.
Yeah. So all the tools fit inside a foam roller. That was like the main idea. And like, no one had done that yet. And I thought, this is pretty cool. And like, maybe there's a way to make it inexpensive too, where you like save money on buying all the stuff, so you don't have to shop around. Cause like, keep in mind, like over a decade ago, like now tools are everywhere, and like, you just give them away. But back in the day, like you couldn't find that stuff. It was, like, it was just rare to see that stuff used very often. So
let's pause real quick. I want to let the people listening know that this is not a pitch for you don't even own that business.
No, I sold it. Yeah.
Just in case you're listening and thinking we're about to go into this huge sell you on some.
No.
Yeah, we're not doing that.
It's just, it's kind of fun talking about like the progression.
Yeah, that's
of
what
it.
I want to know about.
Yeah. And lessons I learned, honestly, right? Like this was my first attempt at entrepreneurship, and, man, there were some ups and downs with it. But, hopefully someone listening could like take some of these if they have like an idea and like you have a lot of hesitation or you're self-conscious about the idea. Like, hopefully there's some things in here I can share that will help you kind of like have more confidence in building the product and like maybe taking that leap and going for it. So anyways, yeah, like if you've ever created anything before, the first thing you do is like, you try to get ideas from people on whether or not they like it or they would use it. So I started telling people about the idea, and some people were like, "Yeah, dude, I'd like one. Like, make me one." So I literally was like buying materials, making my own foam rollers, and like buying all the products and packaging them together. And then I got a logo done. I got some branding done, and I started researching into like patents and things like that. And I was like, all right, let's make a website and let's like build this into a product and start selling it. So got website launch, was using Shopify, the basics. And I'm doing this like all myself on the side. I'm still an engineer at this time. Right. So like I didn't have like a ton of time to kind of dedicate to it. Probably like one of the bigger mistakes I think I've made when you like begin a side hustle is like at some point it's going to have to transition into like, if you want it to like take off and really grow, you're going to have to put more time into it. You can't be 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Yeah.
And like, so yeah, anyway, like I'm literally like making these things from scratch, like cutting tubes, buying this material foam and selling them online, you know, and I'm like, I'm scared shitless doing this because I care a lot about what people think about this product, you know, like almost to the point where I'm like avoiding feedback, which again,
What year was this?
Lesson
that you
number
started
one,
them?
don't avoid feedback. Take it like a man head on and listen to it so you can make the product better.
Yeah.
What year did you start selling these?
Oh, like 2011.
2011.
Yeah.
So you were doing this in the prime of your like
I was beginning
competitive
training
career.
too. Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, I've been training for years, but this is like when I'm like starting to try and shift into full-time
Working
athlete.
a full-time real job,
Yeah.
full-time competitive athlete, and then you're starting this
doing
as a side
this on
hustle.
the side as well. So didn't have a lot of connections then or a lot of resources, but then like as actually like athletic career took off a little bit, started making some connections and getting ideas from people, and eventually found like a different supplier in China to actually professionalize the product a little more. Cause keep in mind, like I was literally making like hundreds of these and selling them like out of my garage. And I was like, all right, like it's time to get like a real manufacturer, get some molds done and all that stuff made. So, I found one overseas, and man, I think the biggest, the hardest part was me being okay with like taking cash and like really putting it into it. Cause I was operating on such like a low level of like checks and balances. Like, all right, like I just want to put this a little bit in, cause what if it fails? And you know, I didn't want to commit. So to me, that was like a big mistake, is like not trusting in myself enough that just put a bunch of cash into it and like really commit to helping it grow.
Yeah. Before we go into this, and the reason why I wanted to ask about the Genesis story originally was because I wanted to know what got you from when you were doing CrossFit into this concept. And you mentioned it briefly, like you were doing that yourself, and then someone said, that's a cool idea. But where did that start? Like, when did you say, I need all these mobility tools for myself? Like, I want to make sure that I'm taking care of my body. And then how did you pick the ones that you picked to go into the package?
I mean, yeah, you know, like trial and error, like you are training hard as an athlete and your body's getting banged up, and you can't afford to go see someone every single time and get body work. So like you got to start educating yourself on how to take care of yourself, like self-massage techniques, like, you know, mobility work. And like, this was my way of giving back to athletes and being like, you got to figure this out yourself, and like start learning more about these tools and making it like a daily routine in a way that's like convenient.
So what were the things that you were originally, before you even thought about the business? Like, what did you have in your
Basic stretch bands.
Yeah, stretch bands.
For like distraction work.
Right. And that was popular at the time, right? That was like Kelly Starrett was just kind of coming onto the scene.
I mean, obviously like he was kind of like the forefront of self-maintenance. You know, what he coined it, I think, is like, you know,
hey,
you need
you
to
got
be
to
able
take care of yourself. For sure.
Yeah. So a lot of influence from him. And then just like, but as an athlete, like, you know, the things that are actually working. Like now the big one is like a Theragun. Like athletes love it because it's so convenient and it freaking works. And like,
but expensive. That's one of the downsides.
Yeah. But it works and it's helpful, you know? So, I mean, back in the day, like foam roller, peanut, hard ball, whatever.
Right. Like a lacrosse ball, but you'd have two of them connected or something like that.
Yeah. Compression floss, you know, basically like relieving stress at a joint.
Sure.
And then like, you know, a stretch band for like various types of distraction or like just static stretching.
So originally you basically going to the gym, you're doing your training, you're trying to be a CrossFit Games athlete, and that's just what you had in your bag.
Yeah.
And like me, I'm sure you just would kind of cram it in there at first and you're like, I can't do this because both of us are very, like, we like to be neat. So like you would have it in a little stack or something like that.
Yep.
And that became, you stuffed everything into a foam roller of some kind, or like a PVC pipe that you had.
Yeah, that was the idea. And I was like, oh, I think this idea is cool. And I think a lot of athletes would use this. And
Man, if K-Star had just came up with that idea,
he would have made
I reached out to him, and I never nothing ever came from it.
He should have, because that's definitely, so basically, so people could envision this, they haven't seen it before. It is what looks like a foam roller. Yeah. It's PVC with a pad around it, and it has basically an opening on one end that you can screw off the top, and
you can put your weed in there.
Inside of this, that's where you would put everything. So you'd have your stretch band, your ball, your voodoo floss, or whatever else you wanted to put in there. Yeah. And that's how you were setting it up.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's awesome. So if somebody comes to you and says, that's a cool idea, is that where it started, or was it already in your head, like, I could sell this?
A little bit of both, right? Like, I mean, you throw the ideas to people at the gym that you respect, and they give you feedback on it or not. And I was like, all right, cool. Like, I'm going to try and just sell these. And like, I mean, you can't listen to everybody. Like, sometimes you have an idea, and like the wrong person you ask gives you the wrong, the wrong idea of whether or not they think it'll work. So, you know, if you're starting something like that, and you're like very passionate about it, like you got to be persistent, and like,
Right.
you're not always going to get the best answers on whether or not like they think it's a good idea or not. But like, if you believe in it, like just keep going. And that's what I did. And like, it took off. And I was selling them pretty well.
I want to get to all that, but I just kind of wonder, you know, you mentioned the feedback thing, you got to listen to it. But at what point do you pick and choose which people to actually listen to, or which group of people? So in other words, like with
Good question.
with the social world that we're in now, social media is like actually still such a small percentage of like the actual voices in the world. Like Twitter is less than 10% of Americans are on Twitter, and only 1% of those of that 10% are actually actively using it. But if you go on there, you can get a political opinion on anything on either side of the aisle. And it's like, but that's not real life. What they're saying is not real life. So should I take that, you know, for what it is, or should I believe that that has to be the case? How do you do that when people give you feedback with something that you're trying to create as a business?
I think you need to listen to people that you've researched that have background in what they're saying, right? Like you don't want to take feedback from everybody because you get pulled in a million directions, but go to someone that's done something similar before and get their feedback, because they have experience they can share with you. And that's what I would base it off of.
Yeah, for sure. So you started this concept of the business. And before we talk about you moving everything to someone in China that's building these out for you, you said you were building them yourself. So what was that process like? I'm actually very interested.
It was a crazy looking garage. That's what
Were
it was.
you in the garage cutting like
Chop
PVC
saw,
pipes?
glue, foam material, packaging myself and selling them out.
Okay, so tell me first with the foam roller.
Yep.
What is it, like 4-inch PVC or something like that?
PVC.
And then
it was as basic as you could think.
Yeah, that's so cool.
This.
But that's the storyline of like, if you go through and read all these like famous entrepreneurs, that's where they started, right? Maybe they had a little bit more sophistication or less, but they started in their garage, Apple or Macintosh.
It was just fun and
Microsoft.
exciting because it was like, it's problem solving. Like I had this idea that I wanted to take off and like, let's problem solve and figure it out and find a way to make it work. And like, when you start anything, you have insecurities about it not being perfect yet. And that honestly slows a lot of people down from taking any action on creating something. Is like, they have this vision of what they want it to be. And because it's not there yet, they don't even take action to go there. And it's like, fuck all that. Just start working on it, start building it, and it'll get there eventually.
That's a good point, because it ended up being really different than how you were making them at first.
I've got like one edition of every like variation that I created over the years. And like, I mean, it turned.
And were you in love with that first one?
I mean, at first I was like, this is cool, you know, and like it works well. No, it's not perfect. And like, I don't feel very confident or comfortable selling this yet, but I got to get it going, you know? So it's one of those things, like just keep plugging away, and eventually like the product will start to polish out.
So how did you originally market it then when you were still in your garage? Was it just other gyms?
That's like even a lesson for coaches in program design, right? You are influenced by a great programmer and a coach, and you're like, I aspire to be like that one day, but I can't write programs like that yet. I mean, I felt that way when I started, but like 10 years later, you do it enough and you get to that point eventually.
Right.
So just start programming. Like, even if you aren't sending someone to the games on your first program, just start programming and work on getting someone just a little better.
Yeah.
Anyways, what were we saying?
No, I agree. I was just asking about the marketing concepts that you had. So when you were still in your garage, this was obviously like a true small business because you're doing everything by yourself.
Yeah.
Was it just people? Were you in Memphis at the time?
Yeah.
Okay. So just people in Memphis that you were selling this to, like the local gyms?
Yeah.
Okay.
So a couple of ways I was marketing. One was Rich Froning. Good connection with him. He was a buddy of mine. And I was like, hey man, like start a new product. Do you mind like sharing it? And he did. He was helpful with it. That did happen, but that wasn't like the number one thing.
Right. It'd be nice now where it has millions of followers.
The main marketing I was doing was trying to build trust with who I am selling it, and building myself as a coach that people could trust with this being my product. So I was doing seminars around Memphis at all the gyms. I would reach out to all the gyms and owners that I knew, and I would go and I would basically do like, you buy a kit or a mobility kit and you get like the seminar, and I would I would teach for like 3 hours. Like I wasn't making any money doing it. However, it was like, all right, like I'm developing trust with these people and they see, and I'm getting pictures of people using it, and I'm teaching them about their bodies and how to use this stuff. And so like, that was basically what I was doing. And I would travel, and I went out of state and did some seminars doing that. And like, it was very helpful, right? Like just getting the name out a little bit.
Yeah. You're learning about yourself.
That was a cool way to do a seminar though, because normally you'd pay for a seminar to learn all that stuff, but you walked away with a kit too. So
yeah. I mean, that was just the idea behind it. I wanted it to be value, you know, right off the bat. So.
Yeah. What were you teaching in the seminars?
Just basics of like, it kind of depended, honestly. Like I would survey on who was coming to the seminars, and like if it was beginner CrossFitters. It was more like an on-ramp of movement and like, hey, like if something hurts, this is how you check it out. And like the crash courses of kind of treating yourself, right? Like I'm not a physical therapist and I wasn't trying to be, but I also think like you need to know how to use these tools to make you feel better. That's basic stuff that you don't need to be qualified for. Like, you know, you have these things that you have access to and it's very cheap and inexpensive and that could just save you a lot of money down the line.
Yeah. Were you coaching any athletes at the time?
Yeah.
You were?
Yeah. I started programming back in like 2009.
Okay.
Yeah.
So were you also using the same thing for your athletes, like leaning on them for feedback and
yeah. I mean, I sent them out to all my athletes.
That's
like,
awesome.
try these, give me feedback. Let me know what you think.
For sure.
Yeah.
So then you make the transition, or how did that transition happen? How did you get the contact in China to start mass producing
Alibaba.
Yep. Which is still huge.
I mean, I didn't have any contacts really.
Okay.
I reached out and researched and tried to find U.S. manufacturers. I couldn't make it work.
It's just so hard here.
Yeah, it was tough. So I reached out to China because like I would buy anything I could see that looked like something that I wanted to use and would like, all right, like they're already making something similar. Let me see if they can add something to it and make changes to it. And I found someone who was willing to do that. And oh man, this is when it got crazy. But this was like the first big like step toward putting more cash in and like taking kind of a chance on it.
Before you go there, at what point, where was the business financially for you at this point? Was it a headache? Was it raking in the dough? Where were you?
I mean, it was like
in your head.
It was like above break even, right? Like the materials I was spending to make them and sell them and shipping and website and a little bit of marketing and paying some people here and there to help. It was kind of breaking even, you know, like it was more like, again, it was a side hustle. And it was like, this is just a fun project that I'm enjoying. But I started just getting the pressure of like, all right, if this is really going to like do something, I have to like,
you got to take
start
a step,
putting more time and like getting more into it. Yeah. So
that's the story you always hear though. So you mean at some point you have to make the decision that you're going to take some risks.
I mean, I started with $0, you know, like, and that was probably why the growth was really slow because I was like, all right, like let's make a bunch, sell to this point, get some cash, buy twice as much, and then just kind of like keep compounding on that and just repeating that cycle. Again, like I have never done anything like this before. So it was all like brand new learning for me.
Yeah.
And then, so finally find a supplier that can make a product that I'm like super excited about, you know, creating and putting out there. And like, man, like when you create something from scratch, like all the little things that go into it, like you need good imaging, you need good photography to create something that you want to make a good picture to put on a website. And like,
we made a commercial with you and Brandy back in the day.
Dude, you made an awesome commercial.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, that was with one of the original ones.
Yeah.
But it was super fun, you know. But yeah, like all that little stuff, man, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
You know, and there were times when it was like becoming the full-time thing, you know, and I would like shift back and forth and it'd be like grind for 3 months and then have to go on pause to go back to engineering and like grind for 3 months and back and forth. So anyway, like I found a supplier in China that could help me out. Basically, I was ordering from a bunch of different suppliers and then I would package it myself at home. But the biggest task to tackle was finding a roller that was durable and like did what I wanted it to do. Like I wanted very secure endings because like some of the original versions of it, the caps would like pop off and like you got a 150-pound woman rolling on it, it'd be fine. But then a 210-pound football player,
it's going like, back and forth.
This thing's a piece of junk, man. Like give me my money back. I'm like, fine, sorry, I'll work on it. You know, so I found a supplier and like a very durable roller that I liked using, and they send me a sample. I confirm it. I get back to them. I order, thousands, and I place the order. And that to me is like stressful because now it's like this is like all my money, like that I'm throwing into it, and I'm like, I don't know if it's going to work, and I'm petrified that something's going to go wrong. I don't trust these people. I haven't used them before. I don't really have anyone to kind of like hold my hand in it. So it was just kind of a leap of faith in that point. And I get like 2,000 rollers in, and they don't work.
Oh,
they're all like, the caps are popping off. The foam doesn't fit right. It's like a nightmare. And like everything that I thought was going to go wrong did. And I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm just going to give up. I'm just going to pull the plug. Like I can't afford to lose any more money on this. Like, so I find a way to figure it out and make them work. And they actually end up helping me out, or they actually own up to what they did. I thought they were just going to be like, peace.
Yeah.
But they were a good supplier to work with, and they actually resent more. So I found a way to salvage them. And again, like running a business like that, entrepreneurship, the problems are never ending. You just got to be resilient and like be able to roll with the punches and like,
and everything's on you. It's not on someone else. Like,
Yeah.
the buck stops with you. So.
Yeah. So just being persistent, just like, all right, well, we'll figure a way out, we'll figure it out. Like, when you create a product, you are the worst critic about it. Like the things you see and the flaws are like so clear and apparent to you, but not to everyone else. So like, again, like that just is such it's a hard thing to get over, and you have to just keep moving forward and building it, and just, deal with those obstacles as they come. So anyway, like not to go too long winded on that one, but that was like the big headache, and got it figured out. They owned up to it, and we got things going. And like this new edition was super cool, and I was very proud of it. And this was the one I continued to sell for years and years. And I was just like, it was a great product.
So what year was this where you got the first order from China?
Like 2014.
Yeah. And we don't have to go there yet, but when did you sell the business?
2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you had it for, 5 years basically.
Yeah. And I was like John, like I had people helping me out with shipping. Like, it just got to the point where it was like, all right, this is a cool product. It's not a business.
Right.
Like that's a little different. This is like a thing that I'm selling under a business, but it's not like I was just capped on, like, I didn't have enough forward thinking. Like, where is this brand going to go? And that, to me, I believe that I could have done it, but I loved coaching. And like, I was like, all right, like, I don't think I'll ever stop coaching to do this. Like even if the money was going to be really good with this, like I just enjoy coaching.
More passionate about
like I'm working
coaching.
for Training Think Tank. This is like super fun. And like, it got to a point where I was like, all right, like I'm not giving this the attention it needs. It's time to move on and basically like, sell off all the inventory, collect what I had made, and sell off the branding and the idea to someone else. So, so I sold it.
Right.
How did that come up?
How did what come up?
You found a buyer to.
Yeah. So like if you have a store on Shopify, you can sell it. Like you put the storefront and like the product or whatever else, you can basically like create a contract on there and they help it out. They just take like a percentage and you can sell it.
Hey.
That's pretty cool. I had no idea.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So
I mean, it was a very cordial, happy ending. It was bittersweet because I'm like, I felt like a quitter, but I was also like, this is successful for me. Like
For
overall,
sure.
like I didn't lose I didn't lose any money in it. I made money for years doing it, but I just was like, man, like I need to create, this needs to grow. Like it needs to be more than just selling one item. Like it's like tons of CrossFit products out there, wrist wraps, like all these companies that have like one thing, and like eventually like they end up going into another company, or they expand their market, or they expand their product line. And I just didn't have the energy or time to expand the product line. Call it
that would have had to be a full-time job.
Yeah, like being honest, I just didn't want to. So that was like my way of just being like, all right, well, that was fun. Like I created something and it was mildly successful. Like let's move on.
Yeah. So hindsight's 2020. What are the things that you look back on that you would give either caution to or advice you would give to someone that wants to start a business like that?
I think timing is one. I could have capitalized way better back in the day. This is before, mobility products were like full steam on the market. Cause I started, as I built this and started coming out like and sticking with it for years, I started seeing a lot of competitors. And at first I was like, they stole my idea. And I'm like, well, I tried to patent and you can't patent a collection of things. It needed to be like a unique style of roller that has a unique feature. Right. So I was like, well, let's just be the coolest brand then, like barbells, like tons of companies sell barbells, but Rogue has a brand and they make a specific kind that people like. So that's just like the difference. So I think anyways, timing, you got to capitalize on it. Like if you have an idea and you feel like this is a good time in the market for it, like you got to go for it and go full steam. I just went way too slow and was like 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and didn't really commit. On the level that I could have been like more successful with it.
If you could go back, would you have quit your job earlier on as an engineer and jumped in? Or do you feel like, look, everything happened for a reason, I guess you could always say that.
I mean, I don't regret anything. I just think like I could have done things a little differently.
Right.
I don't think so. I think I could have done both. I just needed to have asked for help and try. I had people that wanted to like partner up and I was like, no, I can do it myself. Like, and that was so stupid. Like I was doing so many things that I'd never done before. It was like me trying to like lay tile in my house for the first time and like, you can figure it out.
Yeah.
Right. It
just takes a long time.
I know I can do it. It's just going to take four times as long instead of like sharing with someone and paying
replaying a YouTube video over and over again.
Like just like that. So I should have, I'd say like that's number 2 is like, should have been more willing to work with someone and ask for help and trust them to, build like a partnership and done it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. What about like the things that you feel like you did well? What are those things that you would tell someone like definitely do this?
I think I cared a lot about the product, and I think like that's important. So like that was never an issue. I almost to a fault, right? Like I cared so much that I like wouldn't sell it more and wouldn't take chances sending it to certain people because I was insecure about it. Like I wanted it to be perfect. I think that's a good thing, but I also think it hurt me a little bit in the fact that it held me back from, just throwing it out there and just like letting people use it. And like, but I mean, I had a lot of big contracts with sports teams and colleges. So like they were ordering from me annually and like bunches at the military contracts. So like, but they were like non-visible, like they weren't posting about it or
they probably didn't want you to post.
Yeah. Like, so I was like, okay with that. Cause I was like, well, I don't want like, I don't know. You care about your baby and you like, you want to protect it in a way that like, you want everyone to like it, that kind of thing.
Right.
And that can slow you down.
So now you're a full-time coach. What are the things that you learned from being an entrepreneur that have helped you with either your coaching relationships with your athletes or just however you create a training design?
I don't know. I mean, there are times when I just felt lazy. I felt like, I think I'm doing everything I can to like make a perfect product or make this thing grow. And then I'm like, you kind of remove yourself from it for a minute and take an outside view and you're like, nah, you can do more. You can do more. So same thing with coaching. Like a lesson there is like, I always reflect after someone has done like a training cycle or a competition. And I sit down and think like, well, I really gave it everything I had for them. And like, I could have that was like the most I had at that time. No, it wasn't. Like you can always do a little bit more.
Yeah.
Be happy with how you did at that time. But if you are certain that was the best you could do, then how do you grow from that?
Right.
So I think that's like kind of like a lesson there is like, just always assume you can do a little better.
How do you balance that though with an athlete? Because there's so much that we can do. And I agree with you. I think we could always look back and say, oh, we could have done this or that. But so much of an athlete improving is also on them. I mean, more than what we're giving them, right?
Yeah,
especially where the level of CrossFit is right now.
I mean, that's an entirely different conversation, but I've made that mistake as a coach is, taking too much responsibility for their performance, not putting enough of it on them, being like, look, I like formula racing, like such a great example to me of like coach athlete relationship. Like you have a team of people that build a car and every year they renew the car and they make a better version of it. And they do everything they can to set the driver up for success. At the end of the day, the driver has to race that car.
Right.
And yeah, sometimes as a coach, you fuck up and you don't put the wheels on correctly, and the car spins off the track. Like you got to own up to that. But if the driver's just not taking chances and not driving the car as fast as they can, you can't take responsibility for that. You have to be real with them and be like, no, like you underdrove, like you underperformed.
Right. I also wonder though, if someone,
conversation.
Let's say someone does underperform and then you're doing an evaluation as a coach, which I think is extremely healthy and we always have to do. It's hard to do a full and true evaluation when the athlete's not doing the things that you asked in the first place. So in other words, you don't know if it worked because they didn't do the correct percentages. They didn't do the correct work. They didn't listen to the mobility protocols, whatever it may be. That's a really hard relationship to have as a coach and athlete as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's not about trying to prove the athlete wrong. It's about showing them, hey, like we had this plan to try this and now we don't know if it would have worked or not because you didn't execute what we talked about. So it's like, I told you to take this turn at this speed and you didn't. So now we don't even know, like, could you have done it or would the car been able to handle it, et cetera?
Yeah. I think that to me is one of the more challenging things is because when you're talking about relationships with what we do, there's always a different side of the story, right? Like the way that we're viewing something is completely different than maybe the way that the athlete is. And so to me, it almost feels like one of the most important things as a coach now is having proper communication so that the athlete and the coach are on the same page throughout the process, which may never actually happen, but at least we're closer to that than almost speaking on two different levels. And I think that's the mistake I've made in the past is like, this is what we need to do, but they don't understand exactly what I'm saying. And so the way that they're pursuing their goals is different than the way that I'm envisioning them pursue their goals. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, from my end of it, like all those conversations are different because every athlete's different. I have some athletes that if I overcoach them, they're going to get worse.
Yeah.
And they almost like take offense to it. It's like, dude, let me figure it out. But it's like, I'm watching you make the same mistake. So instead of telling them how to do it, you have to keep giving them the challenges so they can like figure it out in a way that, that they will continue to build trust in themselves and do it. And then that is your way of coaching them. Like it may not look like that, but that actually is how you're coaching them. And then there's some athletes that like, they need you to like hold them in positions and help them feel exactly what they're doing wrong.
Right.
So they're very different.
Different learning types for sure. And there are different coaching types as well that work. So what was it like being an athlete at the games, and how has that changed your perspective on coaching?
I mean, at the games, for understanding what other games athletes go through again, right? Like it's been a long time since I was there individually.
2013,
1976.
A long time ago.
Yeah. 2013 was the last time individually. And you think you remember what the athlete goes through from being there that long ago. Like I have some ideas and like the pressure and how important it is to be aware while you're on the field. But then having a renewed sense of it being there in a team, I'm like, damn, like this is just a lot, right? As an athlete, you have to be so resilient to it all. Like, not getting thrown off by little things changing, like not being able to hit your specific warm up, not being able to, take control of when you're going to be corralled or go back to your hotel. Like all these little things are kind of out of your control. And just like, to me, I have respect for the athletes that are able to just like roll with the punches nonstop.
Yeah. What was it like leading up
to the game? I'm going to let you finish, but 2013 was the best CrossFit Games of all time.
Oh man.
Why do you say that?
In my opinion, it was just the peak of the sport. It was like all the hype. Everything was just,
There were some good, the middle years there were some good years. And then obviously all the stuff changed with the way that they did regionals into sanctionals. And I feel like there were some obviously huge mistakes, but I mean, again, you learn from those. CrossFit's going to continue to refine it.
Yeah.
The best thing that CrossFit can do is lean on the people that have been in the sport a long time and are actually creating an environment and a healthy community. So
listen to feedback.
Companies like us, all the companies, and I'm not saying it just needs to be us, like these big companies need to be a part of the conversation with CrossFit, and then the high level athletes need to be a conversation for the sport.
Yeah.
And they're not. So if they do that, then the sport's going to thrive.
Yeah. Yeah. It was fun. It was, I mean, good experience. Not that this is a games episode, but going back to just like the amount of respect and empathy I have now for what I can do to help athletes prepare to handle that type of stuff better. Because the experience at like a semifinal versus the games is just this night and day difference.
Yeah.
It's a different style of competition.
Well, I was wondering about training, and that's where that next question was going. I think sometimes when you're trying to compete as a coach, the challenge can be if you have other high level athletes that you're riding for, or you on site got to see Travis and Noah and all these other on-site athletes and how much they're training, how hard they're going. But you also have to balance all your work, your wife, your kid. Was it hard for you ever to feel like you weren't doing enough, or did you always feel like I'm content? I know that I may not be doing as much as Travis right now, but I'm content with where I'm at.
Brandon and I had like an hour-long conversation about this last night.
Yeah.
Like kind of like our like debrief of the season. Like, all right, like if I'm going to compete again this year, if we're both going to compete again this year, like what can we do better? Not that we did anything wrong, and like we had a very successful season. We may not even have that much success again, but I still like to look at the season as a whole and reflect and like, all right, like in all areas, as a husband, as a coach, as an athlete, what can we do better to make sure that we are still giving our best in each one of them? And yeah, dude, I battled a lot with, am I giving enough in all three of these areas right now? I think the biggest one is like making sure that I'm okay with not being able to put in the same time as what I see other athletes doing. Like that's just how it is. Like I've got 90 minutes to give my energy to training, and then the rest, I still have to have energy left to be a dad, and to be able to write programs and like be there for clients and be in the conversation during consults. Like you train too hard and get too sucked into that because you're really concerned about your training performance. It pulls from the quality of that. So I worked my ass off to try and maintain that balance. And I'm going to work even harder this year because I did learn how fulfilling it is competing again, right? The fun and love that I had for the sport was so renewed this year training with this team that I realized how important it is in my life. So I want to make sure that I find ways to balance it all so that I do feel like that work and family are still getting like a really big part of me.
Yeah. Man, I know that when you train hard, it's especially like if it's a really intense team session or just by yourself, it's really hard to go straight from that into the writing a program or having a consult. And I thought that all of you did a really good job of being able to almost separate those things. And you have to almost put them in buckets, right? Like this is my time where I'm training. This is my family time. This is my time where I'm doing my work.
Yeah.
And if you don't do that and they start bleeding into each other, it may work, but a
Yeah.
lot of times it also can be chaos. And then you end up not putting in any good effort to any of those one things.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, transitioning well is something I say a lot. Like you need to be able to transition from one to the other really efficiently. Like you can't carry work into training with you and you can't carry training into whatever else you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah, I mean, not to throw this term around so loosely, but being present in it.
For sure.
That's important.
Yeah.
But I think, I mean, yeah, like I'll be honest, like it's super hard and there's like a lot of guilt involved, you know, like you look back and you're like, was I giving my best in all those other things? And like from an outside view, like some people would say you did fine. Like, you know, everything was good. Like I didn't see a drop off anywhere. Like it is what it is. So keep going. But I realized too, like, I mean, that's just part of like what style of coach I am. I'm a coach that likes to compete. I used to think you couldn't do both, but I think you can. And I just think it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of discipline, a lot of structure, and a lot of balance. But I think that competing brings a lot of fulfillment and it inspires my athletes. It helps me be creative with programming. It helps me empathize with them better and continue to feel what the athletes are going through and like have this renewed sense of like what challenges you go through majority of my clients have full-time jobs.
Right.
So like, it's important for me to continue to know what that's like and understand. So I know exactly how hard to push them and I know when to pull back, right? Like I know when I can make them reach and really challenge their ability to like structure their life in pursuit of their goals versus it being something that's taking quality from their life. You know?
So what are those things then that you learned from competing this year, training and at the games, that will change your coaching perspective? Like, are there those things that like, oh, this is something that I haven't been doing that I want to communicate to my athletes? Or are there certain training protocols that you thought worked for you that you'll start using?
Oh, that's a lot. I would say, I mean, one, having time after it's done to really rebuild a plan. I think right now is this time after competing is so important before starting up the next season, right? This is where we really look at and review what we need to do to get better. And if you don't do that, if you just in my opinion, if you jump right in and just hit the ground running again, like you're going to run into the same mistakes sooner this year that you made in the previous season. So you got to have time to really reflect on it and make sure that you have a plan on what you're going to do to make things different.
I agree. That to me is the most important thing. We probably come at it and all the coaches come at it in a different perspective, but I think that one of the things that we have done well as a coaching staff is true review of an athlete's performance and then identify the limitations that they have and then coming up with a game plan for those limitations so that they no longer will be weaknesses for the next year. And part of that is like, I've talked about this a ton, is like the data collection, looking at what's been tested, how often it's been tested, looking at where someone is compared to the field, like how much time are they losing? How many reps are they losing? Why is that? What movement's causing this limitation? Where's the separation from workout to workout?
Yeah.
And if we can really dive into all those things, then you can actually see like, if there are 1,500 points up for grabs at the games, where are we losing all these points?
Yeah.
Is it one movement in each of those workouts that hurt us? Or was it the combination? Was it the way that we did this? What pairs?
Yeah.
So there's all these questions, but if you do take your time and have someone that's actually diving into that with you guys, I mean, everyone should be doing that. Every team should do that. Every athlete should do that.
Yeah. I mean, I think even bigger outside of that macro view, I think what your weaknesses are. Like if you've done the sport long enough, like, okay, like rowing a wall ball or something I got to keep hitting, or I got to get my strength up, so let's just jump back into strength cycles and rowing wall ball cycles and get better at that stuff. And like, that's all fine and good. But if the motivation isn't renewed, right? So to me, it's like the time is more about like, what's the new story going to be this year? Because I know what the weaknesses are, but like, what is going to be the fire or the motivation behind actually wanting to do better at those things again?
Yeah.
Other than just like, well, I don't want to get exposed again. And like, I sucked at them. Because like that works for a little bit, but I think that motivation fizzles, right?
Right.
Like,
well, that drive can drive. I mean, it does fuel some people. Like that fuels a Frazier.
Yeah.
That's what he was thinking. I want to destroy everyone, but that doesn't fuel most people. Like that's a unique breed, and that he literally just wanted to be a champion no matter what. Whereas most of us probably realize we can't be that. So then what is the story that we want to tell ourselves?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that story needs to be a little more creative sometimes than just training weaknesses.
Right.
So you got to have some deeper purpose behind it.
For sure. Yeah. I think that's like one of the things that that goes back to the communication with your athletes, like striving to learn how to communicate to each of the different types of athletes that you have. Because for me, I don't want a story. I just want all the data.
Yeah.
Like I would want to know if I were training for the games, I would identify all the things I need to get better at. And that's how I would drive myself. But I have maybe one or two athletes that are like that.
Yeah.
The rest of them, they need this other more creative story. And I don't mean that in a good or a bad way. It's just like everyone learns differently.
Sure,
Everyone fires themselves up differently.
Yeah. I mean, you have to ask the right questions that make them do kind of some of the deeper thinking. Cause if you just are constantly telling them, this is where you need to go, this is where you need to go, like you run into the issue of them not feeling like it's their goals anymore. Yeah. It's more like your ideas all the time. So, I mean, I think you need to kind of drive the narrative as a coach, but I think you also need to challenge them to answer some of those questions themselves.
Yeah, I agree. How many athletes
Being quite esoteric.
No, that's the thing I also try to avoid as a coach. I know that we're kind of rambling here, but one of the challenges that I think I've found is that,
hey man, you're the octopus.
Coaching nuance, the unobstructed pursuit of nuance can be the death of performance. And most people here probably would disagree with me saying that, because this postmodern world we live in is like everything needs to be like so different and we need to come up with these new ideas. But it's like, if it's not broke, don't fix it kind of concept. And that's the way that I look at life.
Yeah. We're addicted to novelty.
Right. And I think that that's the challenge that sometimes we run into. And I'm trying to like push back against that with not only like just coaching in general, but just life. Like we're always trying to find these new things instead of just like, no, these things have worked. Let's refine it. But we know that this is going to get someone better, or, these are the ideas that definitely need to be worked on. But it's like, oh, but all these other things could come out, or all these other things need to be trained. And maybe that's not the case. So I think that's the one thing that I always try to make sure that there's still some directions. I am the guardrails for the athlete. Like they can make their own decisions, but if they fall off the bridge, they fall off the bridge and die kind of thing. Yeah. So like, let me make sure that we're not getting into
like Audio Slave. I am not your rolling wheel.
Yeah. Well, anyhow.
On the highway.
All right. Any questions, Chris?
Yep.
I got some fun questions for you to finish this off.
All right.
Are you ready?
We already had a lot of fun questions.
Well, I always have fun questions. All right. This is our rapid fire. Chris, do you have anything that you need to ask first?
No, I'm good. Go ahead.
I ask everyone the podcast that I'm on. If a movie was being made about the life of Mike McGoldrick, who would play you?
Slightly heavier James Franco.
Slightly heavier.
Seth Rogen.
Yes. There we go. Great answer by Mike McP. All right. You can be any animal you want for one day. What animal would that be and why?
An orangutan.
Why would it be an orangutan?
Because he's strong, but he also looks like he likes to nap a lot.
Have you ever seen the pictures of the chimps that are shaved, like they're shaven down?
No.
They are completely jacked. Look that up for those that are watching this or listening to this. It's on Google. They are it's not an orangutan.
I'm not Googling that.
Shredded. They are absolutely shredded. It's amazing.
Wait, who be shaving chimps?
I actually think that it's like a disease that they have.
Have you seen like the roided up kangaroos?
Oh, yeah, that's not real. Is that real?
Yeah, my buddy Jeff.
No.
Yeah.
I've seen a picture. I thought it was like one of those GIFs.
My Australian buddy was showing me videos and pictures. We watched when we were hanging out in Jamaica a few weeks ago. I was at his bachelor party.
Yeah.
We for like an hour, we were watching videos of kangaroos boxing people.
Yeah. That's the dumbest thing. I have seen that. It's
You've
on
never
YouTube.
seen that? Oh my
think
gosh.
so.
It's hilarious. It looks like a human, but it's a kangaroo standing there with boxing gloves on fighting a dude. It's crazy.
And they would knock you out.
Or?
Dude, they knock the dudes out all the time, and
just knock them out.
They'll
Does
bounce
anyone
on their
get a
tail and
kangaroo?
double kick them in the crotch.
Wait, is it just the kangaroo punching, or is the other guy?
The dude's trying to knock out the kangaroo.
Does he ever knock him out?
I didn't see any kangaroo.
I'm
knockouts.
surprised that they let those videos like on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's amazing what's on.
I guess it's
It's true.
probably inhumane.
I know. I've seen it on YouTube.
It doesn't feel
before.
inhumane watching it because the kangaroo is whooping the dude's ass.
Yeah. It's like you're an idiot for fighting the kangaroo.
Body language is so creepy. It literally looks like a human with a giant
it's really
tail
wild.
fighting.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Is it true that you bungee jumped 2 weeks after the cord snapped
Yeah.
on someone else?
Yeah. It was the Zambezi bridge.
Just like a famous
A
bungee
bunch of
jump?
friends did it. Yeah. Isn't that the best time to do it? Like the cord's brand new.
Yeah, I mean, that's one way to look at it. Were you not afraid jumping
No.
off the bridge?
No, it wouldn't be open if it was dangerous.
See, I've seen,
What regulations do they have?
I trust them too much.
I've seen too many of those videos where the cord like wraps around the neck.
Oh,
really?
Yeah, that
Hashtag
could-
no.
Oh man, that was awesome. That was so fun.
All right.
That was scarier than skydiving.
Yeah, I didn't think skydiving was that scary.
Yeah.
Like I was afraid going out of the plane, but once I jumped, it was a ton of
The
fun.
scariest part to me was going up
over
in the
And
plane.
the rickety plane that was shaking all over the place.
Yeah, they get to like 10. Is it like 10,000 feet?
I think we went to like
7,000 feet?
12, maybe 12,000, something like that. It was
they
high.
get you up there fast.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It was a lot of fun. I would do that again for sure.
Yeah.
You are writing a book about your life, an autobiography. What is the title?
That.
I would just go with mine earlier.
Corpus Animus.
Balance the life of Mike McGoldrick.
People aren't going to read that. What's something that people would grab? Something that people would like. The subtle art of blah, blah, blah. throw an F word in there.
Oh yeah, what is up with all these F word books?
Man, it's just to get people to grab it and
fucking business, bruh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Shit I did wrong.
That would be a good one.
Yeah.
You have to put an asterisk for the I. It'd just be SH asterisk T.
Yeah.
Because that's what they do with like all the other books.
Yeah.
And then put your face on it or something. Or maybe it's like Liam going like,
yeah, perfect.
Yeah. I don't know what I did. All right. Would you rather get punched in the face by Max or do Fran on the 5 minutes for 5 sets?
Oh man. Well, I've done that.
Not for 5 sets.
Oh, 5. I've done 3 sets. So I would rather do that again.
Could you do 2 more sets?
I think Max would break my head off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you die?
I mean, maybe.
There's a chance.
Maybe. Or maybe he'd break his fist with my iron face.
What would you do, Chris?
Out of those two?
Yeah.
You
have to
I mean, I guess Fran.
I would catch his fist in my teeth like Ace Ventura.
Oh man, those are like some of the best movies.
It's great.
Favorite movie of all time?
My favorite movie of all time. The Departed comes to mind.
The Departed.
Is
Shawshank
that
Redemption.
with who's in Departed?
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, what's the other guy's name? The other
Matt Damon.
Yeah.
Got a lot of people in it.
What's your favorite movie, Chris?
I don't know if that's my
Can't tell
favorite,
you.
but that came to mind.
All right. Mike
That's it?
McGoldrick. Thanks,
Okay.
my friend.
That was great.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Thank you.